In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a new Rainbow Loom charm, which is a small pair of lips. So what you will need is one loom, and you want to have it set up in a staggered pattern so that the pins are not in line with one another and they make a V shape at the end. And you want to have the arrows facing away from you. And then you'll need to choose your color. I've chosen red. So we're going to be making the upper and lower lip on the loom at the same time. In my last video with the larger lips, we had to make the one lip, take it off, and make the second, but we're able to fit both on at one time with this smaller lip. So we're going to be, like as I said, starting with the arrows facing away from you. And we're going to be making the upper lip first. So we're going to start on this bottom row of pins, and for our bands we're always going to be placing 2 bands at once throughout this whole video. So you're going to start here and go straight up to the right, and then from here I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right, again with 2 bands. We're just going to be repeating that every time. And then on the same pin, I'm going to go straight over to the right. And then up to this center pin, I'm again going up and diagonally to the right. And then on this same pin, I'm going straight over to the right. And now from this upper pin, I'm coming down and diagonally to the right. And on this bottom row, I'm coming straight over to the right. And then from the center pin, I'm coming down and diagonally to the right. So you should have made a triangle shape. And now we're going to continue on. We're going to make another triangle shape. So from here, the first thing I'm going to do is go over to the right. And then again, staying on this pin, I'm going up and diagonally to the right. And then from here, I'm again going up and diagonally to the right. And staying on the center pin, I'm coming straight over to the right. You want to push these down so you have room to add the next one. And now to this top row, I'm going down and diagonally to the right. Just coming back down the other side of this triangle. And at this bottom row, I'm going straight over to the right. And then from the center pin, I'm coming down and diagonally to the right. And then finally on this lower row, I'm going straight over. So that is the top lip. And now we want to add our cap bands. So on this end pin that we just finished on, I want to put a triple band. So I'm going to take my band and place it on my hook. I'm going to wrap it around so that it's doubled, and then one more time so that it's tripled. And now what I want to do is just place this on the top of this pin. So just stretch it so that it's open. Put it right there. So I'm going to place 2 more cap bands. The first one is going to go at the top of the triangle all the way to the bottom. I'm going to double this band, place it on that top pin, and stretch it down. And then I want to do the same thing for the other triangle. Double the band, place it on this top pin and stretch it all the way down. And now I'm going to do the bottom lip. So I'm just going to slide it over, slide the loom over. And now where I'm going to place my first band placement is going to be where we have the top of this triangle. It's going to be to the pin over to the right. I'm taking 2 bands and it's going to go over to the right, just straight. And then from here I'm going down and diagonally to the right. And then again I'm going down and diagonally to the right. And then on this same pin I'm going to go straight over to the right. And now to this bottom row again, I'm going straight over to the right. And then back to the center row, I'm going straight over to the right. Back down to the bottom row, straight over to the right again. And then back to the center row. Again, I'm going straight over. And now from this bottom row, I'm going to go up and diagonally to the right. And then from the center pin, again, up and diagonally to the right. And then finally, from this top pin, I'm going straight over to the right. And now again, I'm going to go on this end pin, and I want to put a cap band on here that I'm going to triple. So I'm going to put it on my hook, wrap it around a second time, and then a third, so there's 3 bands on there. Just going to place this on the top. And now I want to place 2 more cap bands, and they are going to stretch diagonally across here. So I'm going to take my band and double it. I'm going to start right here on this second pin over towards the left from the middle side of this mouth, the center row. I'm going to place that on the top and stretch it down and diagonally to the right. And again, I'm going to place another band diagonally across. So I'm going to double this band, put it on this top pin, and stretch it down and diagonally to the right. So now I'm ready to start looming. So I want to take the loom and turn it around so that now the arrows are facing towards me. And I'm going to be working on the bottom lip first. So we put that cap band on the top, so there's 3 bands on top, and then you have your 2 bands that you want to grab underneath. So what you're going to do is take your hook. I've switched to using my metal hook to take these bands off, just because there's a lot of pressure sometimes placed on the hook, and I don't want my plastic one to break. So I'm going down through the center, pushing back on these top 3 bands, grabbing the bottom 2. I want to hold that cap band in place. I'm going to pull these out and move them to the pin to the right. Then from here, I'm going to again reach down through the center, grab the 2 bottom bands, pull them out through the middle, and go up and diagonally to the right. Make sure they both get on there. And now on this pin I have 2 sets of bands underneath. I have one that's going this way and one that's going this way. So I'm going to reach down and grab the top 2 bands. You need to make sure they get separated and only grab the top 2. And these are going to go up and diagonally to the right. and then I'm going to take the other two bands and move them straight up to the right. And now on this bottom row, I'm going to again reach down through the center, push back on all of these upper bands, there's going to be a lot of them, grab the bottom two bands and pull it straight over to the right. I'm going to move back to this center row, reach down through, grab the bottom two bands and pull it straight over to the right. And then I'm going to move back to the top row. I'm going to be pushing back on these top bands that has the cap band on it. Only grab the bottom two and pull them straight over to the right. Now I'm going to move back to the center. Again, push back on that cap band. Grab the bottom two, move it over to the right. And now I'm going to this top row again. Grab these bottom two bands and move it down and diagonally to the right. Again, reach down through these, grab just the bottom two and pull down and diagonally to the right. And then finally we have just one left, and this bottom lip we're going to reach down through, grab the bottom two bands, pull it out and over to the right. And so that's what it's going to look like. So now what I want to do is take this bottom lip off of the loom. So the only loose ends we have are right here where we just finished. So I'm going to take my hook and reach down through. I want to make sure I hold this tightly on my hook. I don't want it to come off. And I'm going to carefully remove it. And so that's what it looks like. And then what I'm going to do is take a pen and I'm just going to slide these loose ends onto the pen. Make sure it gets on there. Take my hook out. And then what I'm going to do is I want to take the end that the pen is not on, so the end that is not loose. It should have a cap band on the end. So you should have 3 bands there on the end in like a circle. We're going to take the hook and put it through that cap band, make sure it goes through all 3. And I'm going to attach that end to this upper lip, and I want to put it on the second pin over from the end of the lip. So I'm just going to place this on the top, and then I'm just going to leave this pen sit here for now. Eventually I'm going to attach the other end. So now I'm just going to loop these bands for the upper lip. So we have this cap band on the top with 3 bands. So we're going to take our hook, push back on those top 3 bands, grab the bottom 2. I'm going to use my thumb to hold it in place. Remove that and put it to the pin to the right. Now this pin is going to be very full because it has these bands and all the other bands we have on there plus this extra lip. So I'm going to be reaching down through. I have 2 bands that I need to remove, 2 sets of bands. One is going to go up and diagonally and the other one's going to go straight up. So the first one we're going to do is the diagonal because they're on top. So I'm going to reach down through, push back, and just grab the top 2 bands. It might be a little difficult to do. And I'm going to pull these up through, and again that might be on the tight side. Just going to place it on the top of this pin. And then again I'm going to reach down through and grab the bottom 2 bands, pull those up through and move them straight up to the right. Now I'm going to go to the center pin, and once again I have 2 bands. I have the one that's going straight out and I have the one that's going diagonally. So the one that's going diagonally is on top. So I'm going to reach down through, push back on these top bands. I'm going to grab the top 2 bands here and move them up. And then I'm going to again reach down through this same pin, push back on these top 4 bands, and there should be the 2 at the bottom. Grab them and move them straight up to the right. And now I'm going to go to this bottom row of pins again. Now there's a lot of bands on here, but I'm only interested in the bottom 2. So I'm going to reach down through, push back on all of those upper bands, grab the bottom 2, pull them out, and move them up and diagonally to the right. And then I'm going to go to this pin on the top row. I'm going to reach down through the center. Now this has a cap band. I want to make sure I'm going in through the middle. Push back on that cap band. Grab those bottom 2 bands. Pull them out and straight over to the right. I'm going to go back to the center row. Again, I'm going to push back on all of these bands. I'm only interested in the bottom 2. And pull them up and diagonally to the right. Now again, this pin that we're working with next has really a lot of bands on. And the ones that we are interested in are the ones that go down and diagonally to the right, and the ones that go straight to the right. So you can see that the ones that go diagonally are going to be on the top. So I'm going to be pushing back on all of these bands until I see those bottom 4 bands. So the top 2 of those bands, again, it might be a little hard to grab. You want to get the top 2, pull them out, and you might need to wiggle it a little bit to get it loose. I wouldn't suggest pulling really hard because you might snap your bands. And move them down and diagonally to the right. Again, reach through again, grab the bottom 2 bands and move them straight to the right. And now back to the center row. Again, I have bands that go straight and bands that go diagonally. So I'm going to push back on all of these top 4 bands. I'm going to grab the next 2 bands and pull them out and down and diagonally to the right. And now go back down through, grab the bottom 2 bands and move them straight over to the right. And now back at the top here, again, I have a lot of bands on here. I'm only interested in the bottom 2, so push back on all the other ones, grab those bottom 2, pull them out through and up and diagonally to the right. And now at this point, what I want to do is stop for a minute because I want this other end of the bottom lip to attach right here. So before I string any of these bands, I want to put it right here. It's going to be the second pin over from the right side of the loom. So what I'm going to do though, instead of having to stretch this, is I want to remove this half of the lip from the loom. So it's not going to be such a tight stretch. So I'm just going to carefully reach down inside and release these. Some of them are very tight. And so now what I can do is put these loose ends on this second pin over from the right. I should have 4 loose ends. So I'm just going to put them on there and I can take my pen out. Now this is going to make that pin very full of bands, and it's even going to get more on it right now. So from the center row, I'm reaching down inside, pushing back, grabbing the bottom 2 bands, moving up and diagonally to the right. And then on this upper row here, again, I'm pushing back on that cap band. See if you can see it. I'm going to just be grabbing the bottom two, pulling them out through, moving it up to the right. And now again, this pin is super full of bands, so we're just going to be reaching down through, pushing back on all the bands except for just the very bottom two, and I'm going to pull this up through. Again, this is going to be very tight, and you don't want to force your bands because you don't want them to snap, especially now that you're at the home stretch and you're almost done. So what you can do if you feel like this is really tight, if you have a second hook or really anything that you can reach down through, I'm just going to take another hook and reach down through, and what you can do is just sort of trace it around. That just loosens up. If you just run it around the pin, it loosens that band. And so you can then pull it. And then this is our last loose ends. So we're going to reach down through here with your hook and grab your band, pull it through, and then put it back on the other side. Loop one end through the other and pull it really tight to make a knot. And now we can finish releasing the rest of our lip charm. I'm just going to reach down through and do this, especially on this one that's so full. And then we can take it off of the loom. And then here is your charm. And you can play around with it a little bit to get it even. It gets a little bit stretched out of shape. And here's what it looks like on the other side. You can actually just look at it and see which side you think looks better. So here's one side, and here's the other. And then you have this loose end here, and what you want to do is just tuck that in. So if you just find any bands here towards the center and grab this loop and just pull it through. Just so it's not sticking out. And then what you can also do is take a clip and hook it through there, through this loop, and then also hook it through some other bands on the back here where you won't be able to see it, just to make sure it doesn't come loose. And then you can pull this out again a little bit. And so then here is your small lip charm. And then I also have a pink one that I made. It looks like this. So you can make your lip charm just in time for Valentine's Day. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. You can always leave me comments on YouTube or Facebook, and I'd love to see pictures of your creations. Thanks!